Welcome back to the Everyday Innovation Podcast. My name is Jordan Chadsey, and I am a tech founder, currently working primarily on Macro Kitchen, indie hacker, product strategist, and just an entrepreneur that loves talking about innovation. So I'm going to keep my intro short today because this was a longer session that I had with Fabiola Segovia. I'm really excited to share this with you. This was the last of the series that was done on Clubhouse. I may do more in the future, but for right now, these were 3 that were scheduled with fellow girl bosses, ones that I met at the Girlboss Rally or the Girlboss Retreat. And I've loved these conversations so far. Fabiola's gets really, really deep, and it's great to listen to this one before or after Katie DePaula's because we focus a lot on storytelling. So in this podcast, even though we're talking about storytelling, the focus really is on community. So storytelling weaves into that because having a clear story and owning your story, and just as we spoke about with Katie, rewriting your story, you're able to leverage your authenticity to grow your impact and attract the people that will support you, support your cause, and that you can serve as well with your message. So Fabiola and I talk about a range of things, even talking about masculine and feminine energy. Fabiola is, like I said, someone I had met at Girlboss. She's a fantastic entrepreneur, very wise, but she is a master life coach. She is the founder of her company, Thrive and Align, and she's kind of evolved over time more into coaching other life coaches. But because she has the empathy for that trauma experience, she can go a lot deeper than just basic business coaching, productivity, motivation. She can really get down to the core and, again, address the authenticity, the story, how this is working for you, and the type of people you want to attract into your community. And when we're talking about community, it's the community that is surrounding you and your message, you and your business, but it could also be your network as well. It could even be your friends, the people that you're bringing into your life for this piece of your path. So I hope that you enjoy this segment. There will be some show notes on where you can find Fabiola. And please give us some feedback on what you took from the episode. But I wanted to talk about this today because it's so funny because community really is so important. That's kind of how we met, was through the Girl Boss community, and how important it is to cultivate your own community and then also communities of your peers, like as founders, etc. And I wanted to introduce Fabiola because she is a master life coach, and she's also the CEO of Thrive and Align. But I wanted to get a little bit of your background. How did you get into life coaching? Like, how did you decide that this was your calling and what you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, so I always love to explain this as I just felt that my calling, it just was like knocking on my door. And I feel like whenever most of the time people will say, "Oh, I don't know what my purpose is," or "I don't know what I'm meant to do." But more than likely you you just weren't aware of it, right? And so that was the case for me. I didn't know that I was called to do this. And then one day I just felt all these pangs just kind of like slapping me in the face. And I had a major aha moment where I had a flashback of all the times where people were saying the same thing, like, "Thank you, Fabiola. Thank you for being so supportive. Thank you for helping me get through this." And I remember one of my friends, one of my besties, he actually told me, he's like, "You were like my life coach. Thank you for bringing me back to life." And then I just became curious, and I decided to, listen to my intuition. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to research this and see what are the steps to become a life coach." And for me, I'm a massive researcher, so I went and did my homework. I looked at all the different training institutes that were out there, and yeah, that is how I got into the path of doing this. And for me, honestly, it all started with wanting to heal myself and work through traumas and things that happened when I was younger. And I think that, everybody has something that has happened to them in the past, but it's just a matter of if you get through that. And once you get through that, if you're able to, overcome that, then it's like you become a new version of yourself, right? You're no longer the victim to your past. And so that is what really inspired me to, push forward through that. It was not an overnight process. I went through several therapists. I went to EMDR therapy. I've had several different coaches and mentors. So it wasn't just like, oh yeah, let me just go become a life coach. And no, yeah, yeah. So it was a beautiful, beautiful process. And that is basically like what I walk people through as well.
Actually, last week I was talking to Katie DePaula about, taking your story and using that as your power. And it seems like you've really done that in it informing, those next steps for you and how you can share your gifts with other people to do the same exact thing. And I would imagine too, I wanted to ask you, as far as for community, what's been drawing you into that space? Because I would imagine, empowering people with their story and working through to that higher self, to attract, maybe either people who are going through similar things or people who have kind of aligned paths with them as well, would feed very well into community. So I wanted to know, how you decided on, this focus, like more recently, on building community with, your clients and others who are interested in making more connections.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny because, as I mentioned, I had a lot of things happen to me when I was younger. So, and a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur, the first client is yourself, right? Yourself of who you were a year ago, 5 years ago. So I was basically helping people that were myself. So my first niche was I help people work past their trauma so that they can seek peace and balance. And actually, my first client I got at the Girlboss Rally. This was a month after I started my coach training. I wasn't even done. But what ended up happening is, and I think this is a beautiful thing about a niche, is that sometimes your niche just reveals itself, right? And so I was focusing on that and I started helping women work past their trauma so that they can, you know, finally go do that thing that they wanted to do. Maybe go to law school, go to graduate school. But then what ended up happening is I started attracting um, coaches and brands to help me with their coaching businesses and it all surrounded community. And it's funny because I hit a point where I was like, oh, I really want to focus on this trauma work. But then it kind of just revealed itself with the people that I started working with getting invitations with people in terms of like building their community. And for me, that's just something that's always has been so natural for me. I never belonged to one group of people in high school. I was that person that was a part of every group and knew everyone. And so I think that just bleeds into what I do now. And it kind of, relates to entrepreneurship, right? If you have a product or a service and you have a website or you're promoting on your social media platforms, it's going to be it's going to be a very different experience to connect with people to potentially sign up to work for get your services or buy your products than if you had a community that already loved you and is obsessed with you and they know that you have a cute bulldog or that you love, Barbie stuff, and they know all these things. And so when you have a community, for me, I think community, cult, brand, all of that, that's all the same thing. It's just you creating a container of people, right? So it's like you're inviting people to your party. And so that, I don't know, it just, for me, that's just how it happened for me. And it wasn't something that, I thought, oh, you know what, this is what I'm gonna start focusing on. For me, like my passion was like, oh, I want to help people, get through their trauma and all that, which I still do help people through that because a lot of times in entrepreneurship, a lot of times people think, oh, it's just like all about business and strategy, but really business is a self-ascension, right? You're ascending yourself from a regular person that's working a 9 to 5. And this is not to speak badly about people that are working 9 to 5, but it's a journey, right? And when you're ascending, you're going to the next level. And so you're gonna hit points that you're gonna you're gonna go into uncharted territory that you've never been, and things are gonna come up. Maybe you'll get triggered, and you will need some healing and all that. So
And that's so funny that you mentioned kind of this ease that you have with community because of the different groups that you're a part of. And I feel very similar. I've experienced very similar, like growing up as well, where I don't think there was any one community that felt like it was complete for me because, as we all are multifaceted human beings, I think I just see a lot of opportunity in different areas and I connect with people in different ways in different spaces, like those containers. So I think that that's given me such an appreciation for building community because I used to say like I would have, like you said, inviting me to your party. I love that. I love that analogy because that was always my favorite thing. Like I didn't even really care about my birthday or a party or any of that, but I love bringing people together from different walks of life who are going through different things. I had like, friends who were, in more of the, I would say like the musician emo types. And then you'd get like more of the preppy, like AP nerds coming together. It's like, it was such a beautiful combination of people that I always kind of felt that that was so special to do, especially in online spaces. And I think what you were saying about a lot of the traumas, that you have to go through, if you're an entrepreneur, you're still a person and that affects your business. And, growing through that allows you to show up differently in your business as well. And a lot of times we grow through experiencing something together collectively. And of course, we've seen this during the pandemic. I mean, we've connected primarily online with others and sharing experiences. I can even imagine like moms, for example, having a very unique experience during the pandemic, having to teach their kids and try and maybe run a side hustle business because their job isn't giving them as many hours as they had before, or they have, very different expectations. And, I think that having a solid community is not only just good for your brand and your business, but it's good for you. It's good for your own creativity. It's good for if you're creating community. It's putting that beacon out, not just for customers, but also for potential collaborators or peers to work with on a new project, right? But yeah, I think that it's such a unique opportunity, and I think that your background gives such uh, it gives it complexity. So it's not just build your community to create sales, which I know I've seen on your page. It's not about sales. Sales can come, but if you're attracting, the right people, your tribe, the people who are going to continue to engage with your community, even when you're not online, right? That's like so important, and kind of keeping that party going, like you were saying, even when you're not there. But I wanted to see because with everything, like I said, with the pandemic and there's all these new spaces, like where have you seen a lot of growth? And I know you're a huge Clubhouse fan. So I want to hear a little bit about your experience with creating community on Clubhouse too. So I just want to capture that. But I guess the general question is like, how have you seen, creating community change just from maybe creating a Facebook group or whatever? How have you seen community build out, especially like over the last year or so?
yeah. So another thing I wanted to point out too is that, and I love that you said it's not about, creating a community just to create sales. I think also too, what's so important, and it's to realize that these people, these are people you're inviting to grow with you. They're gonna join your container. They're gonna join your community, and they're gonna watch your stories. They're gonna go to your events. And to answer your question, honestly, I feel like it's been such a beautiful experience to use social media just in general to find your people, right? I have had people find me mostly lately on Instagram, Facebook, and then on Clubhouse. I was just basically creating a bunch of rooms about topics that I am passionate about, and that's all I kept doing. I would talk about, okay, I want to talk about imposter syndrome, or I want to talk about this, or I want to talk about that. But it wasn't the fact about the topics that I was talking about. It was the fact that I was really passionate about it. And that is what people want to engage with people who are passionate about what they're talking about, right? They want to talk to people, they want to listen to people who are excited. That's because who it's like going to, like I said, a party. Do you want to go to a boring party, or do you want to go to a fun party? So I think on Clubhouse, now, I mean, there are more and more people now, but I actually, Christmas week, I was so, so grateful. I am living in Los Angeles. My family lives in Chicago. I wasn't able to travel due to the pandemic, and I was home alone, which, it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little sad. It was, and a lot of my friends, they were seeing their family because they live here, and I am just so, so grateful that I was able to find a community within like days of joining Clubhouse. And I spent literally Christmas Eve with them, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and we just kept hosting rooms talking about like share your story, talk about what you're an expert at, just keeping it very simple. And I think that when we keep it simple and we just talk about what we're passionate about rather than worrying like, okay, I'm going to do this because I want to get this result, or I want people to sign up for this, or I want people to do that. That there's just like a different type of energy that is put into that process rather than you putting your heart into it and saying, you know what, I'm going to talk about this and this is what it's going to be. And even if one person shows up, 10 people show up, great. Um, in some of the rooms that I've created in Clubhouse, sometimes I had a couple times where there were one or two people, but most people will get, and this is the same for anything in social media, like, oh, I only got one like or two likes or whatever. That's still one person, right? That's one person that you can change their life. You don't know if they're gonna like become really, really excited about you and then tell their friends or this and that. I had one room where I did a future self exercise, and since only one person had showed up, it was a much different experience than when I did it with a larger room. Because when you have more people in a room, especially a Clubhouse where people are talking, then there's more energies to be considerate of, right? Not everybody can go all in with, okay, this is what I got out of it, or I need help with this, or it's not. So I think it's just like, I don't know. I just think it's been like such a really beautiful experience. And you also have to really see like what works for you. There, I don't think that everybody needs to do Clubhouse, or everybody needs to do Facebook, or everybody needs to do LinkedIn, or blah, blah, like all of them. Like you need to see what works for you, because maybe you're going to thrive only on LinkedIn, and then maybe on Instagram and Facebook, no, or maybe you will on all of them. So I think it's very personal to your journey, because everybody's different and unique, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's okay to show up a little differently on some of these different social media too. I think Clubhouse is interesting because it has kind of that, I call it the cult following, right? Where you can go into these niche type of rooms, or if you think of even like a podcast too, you can really go deep, on these platforms, while maybe on other ones that are more of a general, like you would call them your business card, right? Where you're landing right on your website or landing on an Instagram feed. It's not going to go maybe quite as deep right away for people who are just discovering you. And I think you're so right in talking about things that you're passionate about, posting about things that you're passionate about. There's so many times where I've found somebody very inspirational through an unrelated conversation. And that happens whether you're at a party or whether you're online. Sometimes, you'll just hear somebody speak about, music, or they'll be talking about, like, I know we've bonded over dance music where neither of us are necessarily posting that all the time on our business feeds, right? We find these pieces of joy where we can bring our own perspective to it. And when that draws people in, you get a kind of a widening of that community too, and you get to bring more interesting people in instead of this overly branded messaging that you have all the time. It's just being authentically you. And I think that you do such a great job of encouraging people to be as authentic as possible when speaking with their communities. And do you have any suggestions? Like, let's say you do have a Facebook group, LinkedIn group. It can, you don't have to necessarily specify where the community is, but do you have any suggestions for engaging with people more regularly? Because I think sometimes people don't want to spam it too much. They want to encourage a lot of, community outreach to one another. What would you suggest so that you can get the benefit from it, but then also just kind of sit back as part of the community as well? What would you suggest?
So I think the most important thing is that you're focused on building relationships, because when you're focused on building relationships, then let's say I see Jane, she posts, her and I have been DMing. Let's say she joined my Facebook group or my Clubhouse room or whatever it is. If I message her and I say, hey, thanks so much for blah 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 blah, and just keep it simple, keep it like that. Or, oh my god, I like your page. Like, be authentic, go see what they post. Oh, I see you post a lot of puppies, or I see you make these cute ceramics. When you take that extra step, when you do post online, guess who are going to engage with your content? Those people that you reached out to. So that's, I think, the most important thing. And then as far as, like, putting out your content and engaging, I wouldn't focus on being too spammy, because I don't think there's no such thing as like being too spammy. I mean, think about like regular like newsletters from like Target or Williams Sonoma or, Wayfair. If they were thinking like, oh, I don't want to be too spammy, I'm just going to send Fabiola furniture deals once a month, or, so you kind of have to like not see it from that way, and also think about like your customer's journey, whether it's like a service or a product. Like, what is it that they want to hear? Not all your content needs to be sales related. Maybe they want to hear something inspirational, or maybe they want to hear about, I don't know, like a podcast recommendation, something. So really have to think about what it is that your audience needs, so that when they're reading your content, they're like, oh my god, is Fabiola reading my mind? I've been struggling with that. Or, oh, I like this, I'm going to share this. Or, oh wow, I saw like recently, like, I always like to share posts, like, be very vulnerable. Like, I shared a post where I I talked about running away from home, and all I did, like, I remember I waited for my family to not be home. I grabbed a trash bag and grabbed as much as I could, and I left. And, that was me being very vulnerable, because, I don't think that's like a very common thing for people to like, "Oh, let me leave with a trash bag." But I was being vulnerable and sharing, this is what happened, and this is the process that helped me to get out of that situation from here and there, and just being really real, you know and I think also too, not being too informational with like your content. Obviously, like, be it's okay to obviously share, whatever you're an expert at, because you're passionate about it, right? But you have to, again, think about your audience. We have information overload everywhere. Like, Wayfair is sending us so many emails. Um, we're seeing so many advertisements for this and that, this and that. So you gotta like think about what's gonna stand out and what's gonna be fun. Yeah, I always encourage people like to make sure to be like fun, be yourself. If you are a specific way, don't feel like you have to hide that, because then, I don't know, that's just like, I think that's silly to like not want to show how you really are. Who is there to say like, oh, you're not normal? Like, what is normal? I just think that like that is where a lot of people get stuck. And then if you're focused on like being too informational and not being as spammy, then then your engagement's probably not going to be so great. And then the final piece, I think this is another piece too. It's making sure that you're engaging with other people as well. So if you like, it just all goes back to that concept of, whatever you want to get, you got to give, right? It's like you give love to receive love, right? You want people to engage with your rooms, go to their Clubhouse rooms, or you want people to comment on your Instagram posts, okay, comment on theirs, comment on their stories. So you have to, it's got to be a two-way street. It can't just be a one-way street where like, okay, I'm just gonna post this and I'm just gonna do that, and yeah, I'm just gonna not put any effort. And that's not how it works.
Yeah, to attract the people that you want, you have to show up like they would as well, right? And we may show up a little bit differently for different spaces, but you are also a fan. You're also an audience. You're also a client potentially of somebody else, right? So putting that energy out there is so, so important. And you are so right on. I've felt the same exact way about this kind of information overload. How many lists of 10 ways to send some sort of cold email or whatever it is do we get constantly in like every single area? It's too much. And I won't say the original term that somebody used because it's pretty vulgar, but it's basically like, let's put it this way, like a knowledge explosion onto people. Like it is so much. It's basically like you're barfing up information onto people and then you're not really giving them tools to integrate it. That's the crazy part, is especially when you're working, like I know especially in the life coaching area, if you're not helping people integrate that, they're just taking all this self-help knowledge and then they're not really able to, unless they get coaching, take it to that next level. And I think really the goal for a lot of people is to be able to provide useful information that can be integrated, or that can be integrated over time, over multiple posts or multiple reading, and then they can take it to the next step with coaching or something else, or that you're giving them some value there, but you're not overwhelming them with like, hey, let me list out every single piece of information that I can give you. And that's tough because I think we really want to show up and say, oh, look, I'm valuable. I have this list of information. I can list off all these apps like coming from my end. Let me list off all the apps that I can give you as tools. And a lot of times I have to hold myself back and say, look, I'm can be valuable by curating a couple of things that might help you, or let people come to you and say, hey, I'm really having trouble sharing XYZ, or I really want to share my Clubhouse profile. Like, how can I do that? And I'll be like, oh, I know a tool for that, as opposed to let me throw you every single possible thing you can you can do to on each of these platforms to help you in your business. So I think it's being really mindful of, again, it's that audience experience. So, what do you, maybe sometimes the best questions are to ask yourself that when you follow someone new, do you appreciate somebody, writing to you and saying, oh my gosh, I love that you used to have pugs, or you like to hang out at your pool and listen to techno music, like that kind of stuff is probably very meaningful to most people, but the reason why it works for the people you're trying to attract is because it works for you. So for me, I might prefer, I would love for somebody to comment on something like that, but then I'm also into systems. So when I see like I sign up for something and then I get like a little email to confirm, or they do some sort of follow up that makes sense, that always is like cool for me too, because I'm like, oh look, they got their ish together, they're organized, I love that. Or they use tech in their in their work. The stuff that it attracts people tends to be a lot of the stuff that you appreciate. So I just think that's really important to consider too, because I think we get so, locked up in, oh my God, what did Brad on Club what did Brad on Clubhouse suggest? Whatever, in this like startup room for like how to get more leads. It's like that may be a very valid thing, but it may not be the way that you're supposed to create your community. Yours might look a little different. And you know what? It's okay to test something out. Like if you're doing it from good intention and you just want to try something new, that's where like the innovation piece comes. Is there's so many ways to connect now and create an experience. Why are you needing to listen to Brad? Unless Brad is like the person that is like the key to unlock, that piece that maybe you feel like you're missing. But like, why don't you ask yourself, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think also too, I think this goes back, it goes even deeper, right? I mean, we've all experienced deep social conditioning, right? And we went to school for X amount of years. And I talked about this in a training I did this week where you went to school for 12 plus years and you constantly were graded. You had to get an A or a B, or there were consequences, right? And you always had, whenever you would write, you had to write a specific way. You had to do a specific format, or you would get consequences, right, from your teachers, from your parents, and a lot of times this carries out into entrepreneurship, and then that shows into your content, right? And that's just not what's gonna. That's just it's gonna. I'm sorry, it's gonna be boring. I went to a summit last fall, like an online summit, and I really loved what the brand person shared. He was saying that whenever you're sharing information, you want to do it like you do when you talk to someone. And the example he used is, say, for instance, you get home and your partner tells you, like, "Oh, how was your day?" You would say, "Oh my God, you know, Deborah at work, she like threw the stapler at me, and then, my cup broke, and I spilled my coffee on my laptop, and blah 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 blah." It always starts with like that boom moment, like, you don't go with like, "Oh yeah, I got in the car and then, I was driving like this. I saw a cute bird and then I, was working and then during my lunch break, blah 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 happened." So it's like a specific way of speaking, but it's because of like the social conditioning that we've experienced, right? So it's like kind of like deconditioning that so that we can really be ourselves and we don't think like, oh my God, we're gonna get graded on how this is written or this and that. So it's like there's like so many complexities to this, and if that's how you're speaking in your content, then maybe that's how you're speaking to people. It's kind of like robotic, and then people are gonna be like, "Ugh." Versus like if I'm like, "Oh my God, guys, like this happened," and blah 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 blah, like that's just gonna be a whole different type of energy, And I think also too, at the end of the day, at least for like small business owners, I feel like people are, yes, they're signing up for your product or service, but they're signing up for your energy. They're signing up for like your excitement, if you trust yourself, if you know, because even if you, I feel like even if you have the best product or service out there, if you're coming out with the energy of like, "Oh yeah, I made these new like journals that have like awesome like affirmations. They're really great." Like people are gonna be like, "What? Like what is like? Okay, yeah, that I don't know what's up with her. Maybe they're not that great." Versus like, "My God, my clients really love this. This has been such a life changing journal." So it's just yeah. There's just a lot to it.
I totally get it. And I think there's a lot of people, and I've started to notice this the more that I've worked on myself too, and my own insecurities, right? Or my worthiness relating to work or how much I get done, my productivity, all the stuff we have to kind of master, especially if you're an entrepreneur, but in really any place where you're showing up with your work. But you know, when you're kind of getting over this whole ego piece of it, of attaching value, again, how much information you're providing, what is your product doing, there's a difference between being enthusiastic about, I put a lot of heart and soul into this has helped me in this certain ways, and this has helped my clients, versus that kind of, have you ever seen that? It's kind of like that desperate sales script that you keep seeing over and over again. And unfortunately, I've seen it recently where it's like you can tell the people who are like, I am the queen of whatever, and they believe it. And then there's, I'm the queen of whatever, and it sounds weird because you can't quite buy into it yet. Right. It's like that, oh, that feeling of, they're trying to, it's basically explain to you or convince you that they are, instead of embodying it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure you have a really good take on this too, on, the kinds of things that we can maybe do. Are there, if there are any practices or anything that you feel are so important, when you're putting yourself out there in the world, that you can do to kind of feel more empowered in your work and not feel that same sort of societal or conditioning from trauma as well, to kind of get over that hump of, putting yourself out there kind of in that more the meek way, or in a way maybe that doesn't feel as authentic, to that kind of really emboldened, empowered. You should be proud of your work and excited about your creations.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my God, I love that we're talking about this, because I love that you mentioned, that you yourself, you're putting your heart and soul into it. And honestly, that is all you have to do. You have to put your heart and soul into it, because what you were explaining before, like the desperate this, or like, oh, like it's like a forceful energy, right? It's just very masculine, and it's not a very trusting energy. And I think all you really need to do is tap into your heart. And when you tap into your heart, your intuition, that's when you're gonna tap into your zone of genius, and you're gonna get that creative flow. Like, have you ever had like I like to call them unicorn feelings, where I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna, like, for instance, like the Notion Clubhouse template I made. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna make this, and I'm gonna make it like this, I'm gonna make it like that. Have you ever experienced that whenever you come up with ideas?
I feel like that's been my, like, even with this everyday innovation thing, that's been my place that I'm always trying to achieve. It's a state of flow. It's a state of inspired action that feels, it's that feel good pull that you get. Maybe it's not always feel good. Sometimes it's a little bit, most of the time it is feel good. I think that's kind of, sometimes with intuition, I think people feel like it always needs to be a warning or something, or that it's the feeling of the right thing to do. I think there's a lot of fun that comes into it too, and a lot of creativity. But I feel that, I think probably in a more unusual way, like the over the years, I've operated in that space a lot more than probably a lot of people I know. And it's kind of from, the reason why I'm even in that is because I've gone through really tough things like depression and, having trouble. Like, I'm somewhat like non-neurotypical, like in the way I process certain things, like in the way that I process information. I did well in school, but it is a bit different than, I think, the average person. So for me, I do a lot better when I'm able to jump between things that I love and balance that I may be able to do a little bit better than some other people. But at the same time, I kind of have to have that sort of activation in myself that feels good, because I'm not very good at faking things that I don't that I don't enjoy and that I don't feel aligned with or enjoy learning. So I'm definitely the person that goes full for, I love the unicorn feelings piece, because I feel like sometimes I'm led down many, many rabbit holes. So with that, as far as for learning, I tend to be very curious. So I like to follow my curiosity, which usually is led by, again, those feelings. And then trying to match my energy with that, because not sometimes your energy isn't always, sometimes your interests and energy don't always fully come together, especially if you're not caring for yourself as well as you should. But when they do come together, you get that flow state of, that those good vibes. And honestly, I actually, in my little newsletter thing, I have it's a Notion template, but it has Airtable in it too. And it's a little practice from Life Design where you can rate your activities throughout the day based on energy and engagement. And it kind of shows you where flow is. So it's funny that you're mentioning that, because that's something that I was felt called to create and share with people, because I felt that getting that data back and saying, like, okay, so I'm really not getting a lot of, I'm losing energy here, and I'm not particularly engaged when I have to, for example, get on certain types of Zoom meetings, right? Or, spend a lot of time on these types of emails or writing out these types of emails. Maybe this is better to send as a little video or audio clip, like taking that time to analyze what you're doing through the day and like what things are robbing you of energy and what things are giving you back energy, is so important. Like you were saying, like sometimes even something unrelated, you could join a Clubhouse room or decide you want to paint for an hour, and that can give you all of this creative rush of energy that can lead into something else that is going to, in the end, benefit your business, benefit your life, your partnerships, all of that. But yeah, it's funny that you said that because yes, I have experienced it. And honestly, I feel like I'm trying to design my life around that because I feel like I give the most back and I can embody that higher self when I'm in that state.
I love that. And what you're basically doing is you're essentially tapping into your heart, right? So if when we're creating anything and we really tap into that, you're creating into your inner genius. You're creating to like magical like source. You're feeling amazing, right? And so whenever you're out like creating content or doing things, and if you're operating from that place, then you're more tapping into like that heart-centered marketing, right? Versus like what the example you had used before about like, using a very a forced way of like, oh, you got to do this, or you mentioned too, like, oh, if this person on Clubhouse said you need to get lead gens like this and lead gens like that. The moment you start thinking, and it's even just using the word thinking, oh, I think I should do it like this, like I think I should, all those things, that's all from the ego. That's all from like outside of yourself, right? That's not really coming from your heart. And I think that's just like the beginning piece for like everything, you know who's not to say that your ideas are amazing? If you come up with like any type of idea, I don't care what it is, and you think, oh my god, what if Jordan thinks it's good, or what if blah blah blah, what if I start thinking should, all these things, then you're already disempowering that original idea. Like, I don't think like Steve Jobs was sitting there thinking, oh, I don't know, are people gonna think the iPod's amazing? Like, people would have been like, what? Like, no, like what is this little box thing? And now look, everybody has an iPhone, MacBooks, everything. So I think it really all just goes back to connecting with your heart and your soul. And I really, really, truly think that is just like how you grow. That's how you magnetize people. Maybe, yes, you could use some of like the more forceful tactics, but it's gonna be forceful, right? Rather than like people like really magnetizing to you and really falling in love with you and really seeing, my god, like I love her posts, like, or I love her videos, or I love whatever she's doing. And like for me, it's been so beautiful because I'll have, whenever I create new events, or whatever, I'll have like my regular people that will sign up, or people that then sign up to work with me, and then they'll reference like, oh yeah, I remember in stories you said like a month ago, like we need to take responsibility for our thoughts and this and that. And I'm like, oh wow, like I had even forgotten I said those things. So even if you don't think like, oh, I don't have a lot of people or this and that, it's not about that. It's about you really connecting to your heart and knowing this is what you're meant to do. And you know that the right people will show up, and those people will continue to show up. They're watching, they're always watching. And like for me, that's been just a huge learning lesson for me. Like one of my like I said right now, like one of my new clients, she was like referencing things that I had shared in my stories like months ago, and like, whoa, like that's like amazing. And it's almost like people are like watching you like you're a TV show basically, and they remember everything. So you need to like let go of your ego and let go of like the destination, just like the cliche saying, like don't focus on the destination, fall in love with the process. It really, really is that, and staying connected with your heart. And I promise you, You're going to come up with all the amazing strategies yourself. You're going to come up with the amazing content. You're going to come up with amazing ways, with processes that are going to work for you because you know yourself best, right? That was like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's amazing, and you're so right about, like, I've noticed recently too, if I really thought too much about my own stories and stuff, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh," like, I remember some days sitting there being like, "I'm so freaking annoying," because I'm like, "Oh my god, look at this." Oh my, like, I call myself the, "Oh my gosh, look at this person," and, that's just my personality. When I'm happy and when I love people, I'm the type who's like, let me show you this meme. Let me show you this new tool. Let me show you this. Let me show you this. And, it's because there's an excitement because I'm recognizing something beautiful or something excellent or whatever. And it's something that I've had to kind of embrace. But then there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, is that annoying? Or, no one cares if I'm showing up every day, like adding to my podcast playlist that I like. And or no one cares if like I'm adding, the song that represents every day, but I keep showing up to do that. And what's so funny is like a month or two later, because I keep doing it, somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, I've really been loving what you're laying down recently in all this music." Or where can I find that? And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, it's somebody that is so, so, so random, but so cool. Like, what a great connection to make. But it's because I keep showing up authentically as myself. So it's kind of like you need to let go of, like you were saying, it's not at the destination, and it's not even about like, oh, let me see how many times I've showed up and how many times somebody has commented on something. How many times do we, like you said, like we're scrolling through, we forget to like someone's post. You do like it internally, right? You like it internally. You're like, I like that picture. And you literally don't like it. And the thing is like we get so hung up on this like vanity metrics or proving to ourselves that we're doing the right thing. Like think about how many times, the universe has worked in like the 11th hour, or like you've been trying to, I don't know, whatever. This happens a lot with weight loss too. Like you'll be doing stuff for a long time, then all of a sudden you'll just like your shoulders will pop, you know what I mean? And your stomach will be a little flatter and you're like, did that just happen in a week? Like what happened? The life doesn't work in these like little incremental things. When you set up to have an income goal for the year, a lot of times you're not getting the exact, if you're doing $100,000 a year, so you're not doing like 10K months starting January 1st. Like it could be a totally exponential process. And I feel like same with the community too. I feel like people start to put themselves out there when they don't see people pouring in right away. They get nervous or they feel that people aren't interested. And then it's kind of like it's that compound effect of showing up authentically that you finally get that turning point of like pulling people in that are interested. And then from there, obviously, especially with referrals too, or somebody sending a piece of content of yours to somebody else. I mean, it's just fantastic. But what would you say for somebody who's maybe just starting out to build their community more intentionally? What would you say to them as far as, how they can continue to show up but not get discouraged by maybe if it takes a little time to grow?
I love that question. That is such a great question. I also wanted to add to what you just shared. Those like so amazing. I think also too, it's what's going to make you stand out is maybe like yes, you're going to attract people that can relate to you, but you're going to attract people that are going to love the way how, excuse my language, or like how you don't give a blank. There, because I have some people that'll maybe they don't like techno, but I people who follow me, they know I love raves. They know that I love techno and this and that. And just the fact that I'm not afraid to share that or to share, other things or, this and that, that encourages then people to then, turn around and say, you know what, maybe I can show my weird hobby or buy this or buy that, 'cause
It gives permission, right? It
yes.
gives them permission.
Yes. Yes. And then to answer your question, and this is honestly what I walk through with all of my clients is you really, really, really need to be connected to your purpose, your mission, and your why. Because if you're not connected to any of those, because guess what? And I'm sure you're aware of this, there are going to be hard days. There's going to be days where you're going to be up till midnight, or you have to, you know, something messes up, your webinar messes up, or your email this, or you have to redo this, or you misspelled something, you have to redo this and you have to redo that. You're going to be faced with those moments, especially a lot in the beginning. And if you're not connected to your why and you're not connected to your purpose or your specific mission, then guess what? You're going to be like the rest of the people. You're going to be like, oh, this is so hard. I'm like, I wanted to stop working at 6 and now I'm going to have to probably stay up till 12, like doing this. Like, I want to watch this show, or I want to go out and get drinks, or I want to go like do nothing, or I want to hang out with my dog. And the person who isn't really connected with the 30,000 foot view, with the mission, with the purpose, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna go do something else. They're gonna be like, put it off and put it off and put it off and put it off, right? And then that's not gonna help your consistency. That's not gonna help how you show up. You do have to be consistent. And I always, I'm a huge advocate of like taking care of yourself, giving yourself lots of self-love, making time for lots of fun too. So whenever I tell people, make sure you're consistent, make sure you're consistent too with taking care of yourself. It's like, it's kind of like an art, right? You really need to put yourself up on the pedestal. And then this is like your baby, you building your brand, your community, your container. So I would really focus on that, and then just follow your heart. Your heart is going to know. More than likely, you've been soaking up so many YouTube videos, podcasts, books, webinars, masterclasses. You have saved notes from this entrepreneur and this coach and this. More than likely, you have all the information within you, right? So it's not a matter of like, oh, what specific steps do I need to do? It's just really being connected with that big picture, so that you can always be so grateful for, okay, I'm so grateful that I'm doing this. Because if we're not grateful for what we're doing, then guess what? That's the type of energy you're giving out, right? Like, if I'm like creating content for the month and I'm like, oh, I have to do this. I have to spend like 2 hours today writing all my content and all my pictures and this and that. Like, that's what the universe is gonna feel. That's what people are gonna feel. And like, it's just like it's a whole process. So I always walk people through the 7 levels of consciousness. It basically breaks down from like, you have a thought first, and then from the thought follows an action, and then from the act, or no, thought, emotion, and then action, right? So if, when you're starting out and you're having those thoughts of like, oh, I don't want to do this, or oh, and it's not coming from a place of love or gratitude, your emotions and actions that are going to follow for that, it's not going to be you're not going to have the best results. And then it's almost going to be like self-sabotage, right? So I would be really, really focused on the big view, being committed to gratitude and love, and knowing that yes, you are going to come across moments. I'm not saying like be a perfect human, don't get mad ever, don't get frustrated, allow yourself to feel those feelings. But you know emotional intelligence is so important, and it definitely has a play into our actions and our emotions. So that is what I would tell someone who is just starting out.
I love that. And I think it's been really helpful. And this is for anyone who's very multi passionate or has had kind of a non-linear path. This is just coming from me and my own struggles, but really, truly embrace the 30,000 feet, even the 100,000 feet, whatever you can get. Because in the end, like if you're looking at the larger picture of your life and you look at the kind of emotions you want to create in people, or the kind of maybe just general feelings or themes that you want to create, that can be enough. Like I think it's sometimes, niches, like you said, will present themselves to you. You don't have to just like go crazy and be like, okay, now I'm in tech and I need to find this kind of person to speak to. And that's great for your business. But for yourself, there's a lot of confidence that comes with even if I don't do tech ever again, even if I, can't use my hands tomorrow to use the computer, even if I can't see tomorrow, like I know, like for myself personally, that I want people to feel inspired and empowered to create for themselves and not feel like they need to be a creative, and take their ideas and be able to manifest it into form and feel excited by that and feel that they're valuable for that. I'm always going to want that for people. I'm always going to want to create content around being authentic and wanting to create and doing things a little differently and being a little anti, but still having some systems put in place. That can apply to so many different things. And I think for a lot of people, they get so hung up on the how piece of it, and the how, you'll figure it out. But if you feel really driven by, like, if my entire life I just make people feel excited about creating new things and feel like they don't have limitations on that, even if that's the basic piece that you can hold on to no matter what's happening, that applies to everything. Or for you, I won't speak on what yours is, but obviously yours is helping people feel empowered to move through their traumas, move into a space where they can be aligned with their highest self, right? And obviously you can comment on yours, but I think sometimes getting away from the how we do that is really helpful too in those moments. And even if you can just hold on to living in that energy, like you said, showing up with that energy, you'll attract the right people, because even that's just niched enough to find the people who need that in that moment, who need that energy in their life. And like you said, we all have different communities of friends. You can be their friend that's aligning them with their higher self. I can be their friend that pushes them out of their box to create something new. We're all walking each other home, like we're all creating a space for each other and helping each other get through this crazy life that we're all here. I don't know if it's all under soul contract or whatever, but we're just here to, as a community, create those communities for one another, because we are holding different perspectives that may be healing, for anybody at a particular time.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if we've ever talked about like feminine energy and masculine energy.
I know you mentioned it for a second, but I totally think that, I mean, I had just been digging into certain pieces of it recently, more in the spiritual realm, but just how important it is to have a certain balance of that in everybody, whether it doesn't matter what you identify with. It's just this kind of energy of action versus receiving, and being able to flow with the kind of getting information and sharing information. If Please share on that because I think it is super important, and when it's out of balance, that's where things get funky.
Yes. So I this has been a new discovery for me over the past year, and I had heard about it and before and I this is even before I was spiritual, like back in my 20s. I remember I always thought like spirituality was weird and like yoga people were weird and like what is this stuff? And I remember seeing about it, but I never researched it, right? And then I came across it and then I realized that I was being overly masculine and not really being in my feminine energy. And so basically what feminine energy and masculine energy is, it has nothing to do with your gender. It's just the type of energy that we all have access to. Feminine energy is being. It's trusting. It's like, let's say for instance, I put something out and then I just trust that people are gonna like it or comment on it or this and that. Versus like doing. There's like strategy, there's this, there's planning. So feminine energy is being, masculine is doing, right? So doing is like planning, strategizing, a lot of thinking, forceful energy, right? And men and women obviously, like we both use it, right? But I find that if you are more in your masculine, but then maybe in like what's natural for you is to be more in your feminine or vice versa, then that is when things are going to kind of just like get funky, like you mentioned, things won't flow well, so I think that's also another process too. So like earlier you mentioned, if you were on a Clubhouse room and John was saying this is how you get leads and blah 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 blah, maybe that works for John, and maybe if you both have the same type of energies, maybe that would work, right? But if, let's say, because that process that you explained, that he, with the leads and all that, that was like a more masculine, like process, right? And let's say what works for you is when you're more in your feminine, then guess what? It's not going to work for you, right? But if you are someone that functions more when you're more in your masculine, then it will work for you. So I think it's also finding that balance, or just getting to know yourself, getting to know like what energies work for you. And I think, it kind of ties into that heart centered marketing, so just like how you said earlier, like those desperate, like sales pitches or captions and all that, maybe that works for someone who is like more, in their masculine, but then that's not really what is natural for them. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's okay to flow through both of them too. Like I've noticed for myself, like the more that I am attuned with myself, that I have been living a lot more in the masculine. But the thing is it's worked for me a lot of the time, but then sometimes it wouldn't. So I have to kind of listen to my own almost like internal seasons. Like I even notice, I mean, I don't necessarily go against with the moon or anything, but I tend to find that, probably during a month, there's a couple weeks where I'm a little more, it could be psycho related, I have no idea, but it's from what I've noticed, not necessarily, but I tend to go through, I almost call it the sprint type of thing. A lot of designers and developers naturally design in this way, but it's that kind of do energy. And then there's a lot of reflection, pulling in inspiration, all of that during a quieter period. And I think I used to shame myself for not feeling like I could go all the time. But at the same time, I would be proving to myself at certain times that I could go. So I'm like, wait, which one is it? But I tend to kind of have more of a cyclical pattern of, I have periods where you'll see a million things from me. And then sometimes you'll see me totally dead silent. And then it's just kind of for me, I've been trying to figure out where can I find, maybe the balance in expressing that to people, but then also show that that's okay. It's okay to, create, and then you need some time to replenish and restore, like most people would, right? But everybody has their own unique rhythm. And that masculine feminine is so important too, because I think I started to get really, really burnt out because I wasn't allowing myself to be in the feminine and to like work with my intuition and work with inspired action and really discern more of my strategy too, and really sit with and embody the energy and the why. Because I think this year I've kind of thought to myself that, one of the main adjectives that I wanted to use for this year is embodiment. It's not just thinking about it and creating it and laying it out. It's really truly living it. And when you live it, that looks very different in different people. And you show up differently when you're embodying something versus presenting maybe in that way. But and presenting, I still feel like sometimes is more of a male thing because you're putting it out there and you're controlling the narrative. And then embodying is you're naturally just showing up in a certain way. And there is times for both of it, but especially if you're trying to show up more authentically, the embodiment aspect of it is so important so that you make sure that you're attracting the right people in. But again, there's that balance with everything. It's you want to have that feminine energy of being able to pull and attract people in like a magnet, but then you also need to take action at certain points too to make sure that your message gets out there. So even when you were saying, yeah, there's going to be times where things feel a little awkward, like with or salesy or something. And for some people, that's like no brainer. They can do that and it feels supernatural. And then sometimes for other people, it's a little tougher. But there are different ways to approach that. And you can get creative with that and show up in both ways without feeling, uncomfortable.
Oh my God. First of all, I really love where this conversation has gone. And I love that you shared having that internal season, and how everybody has a rhythm. That is so so true. Now that I'm aware of this, because before, especially in my first year in business, I was always like doing, right? Because I always, from social conditioning, I have to do it like a specific way. Oh, it's got to look like this. Oh, it's got to go like that. And then I was burnt out. I was not happy. I was not doing well in my business. And then as soon as I became more aware of this, everything shifted for me, and things have just been in such a beautiful flow. And now I know when I need to be, in my masculine, like, okay, I have a launch coming up, so I need to like get all of this stuff and this and that. Okay, I have 2 weekends where I'm just gonna do nothing. I'm just gonna relax. Maybe I'm gonna paint, maybe I'm gonna do this. So now it's like more of like my choice, and I base the choice off of like how I am in the moment. Now I'm more of a spontaneous person now. I don't like to follow like routines because I feel like I don't know. And maybe on one day I want to work out in the morning as soon as I wake up, but maybe like sometimes I want to journal, or sometimes I want to take a bath, or maybe I want to do this. So I always just like to see what I like to do in the moment, rather than like forcing myself to like, oh, I got to do this or I got to do that. And I think that ties into, as well as like how you're doing things. And I really love that you shared, that you're focusing more on embodying. That is, I think that's so so powerful, because I truly think that we're all powerful, beautiful beings if we access that and share that to the world. you know so I really really love.
And I think that, kind of tying this back into the community aspect, I think being really honest in where you are in that process is so important, because you're not going to put this, what do you call it? There's a certain expectations on yourself, or give them to your audience. They can understand how you work, right? Like there's some people that release a podcast weekly and that's it. And you're like, oh, well, that's the obvious thing that you do. And then there's some people, they'll do it in little spurts of 2 or 3 or whatever, because they feel inspired in that moment to do that. And both may be right for each person. But I think sometimes we tend to fall into, whatever the social conditioning is of something looks flaky. This is the other thing that it was always very triggering to me, was the kind of flaky stereotype of, because you don't have that routine, right? That you're flaky, or that you didn't finish that project, you're flaky. Now, I obviously you want to be considerate of other people. You want to be considerate of your audience. You don't want to release something and then, half-ass it or whatever, like start your community and then just never do anything with it. You have to be intentional about what you're doing. But at the same time, it can look a little different for different people. Not finishing that project may have led you to do the project that is your life's work. You know what I mean? I think that you have to trust yourself in knowing, is this coming from fear, or is this coming from a bigger inspired action for myself, or a shift that I need to make? And that, I'm going to have to take people along with me, and there's going to be a few people that drop off, and that's okay. But limiting yourself based on, you know your audience is also a no too, because they want to grow, like you said, they want to grow with you. This is a container where they grow with you, and it's like anybody else. How many beautiful friendships do we have in our life where they're not in there for every season? And that's okay, and that is amazing and beautiful, because they may go off and veer on a direction. You may meet up with them 3 years later. It's just, I think the same thing goes with your audience too. Obviously, you never want to do anything that's going to, hurt or offend, or cut off anybody. But at the same time, I think people take it very seriously when they lose a few followers or so. And really, honestly, sometimes that's a sign of growth and a sign of more to come, because you're becoming more of yourself. And I think that kind of authenticity, and especially for women entrepreneurs, and we're talking about masculine feminine energy too, and different ways of working, and especially this month, because it's celebrating women, and challenging them to, it's like that choose to challenge, do something different. It's like I hope that women feel comfortable being in that feminine energy and owning that along with the masculine energy, and not feel like they have to fit into a man's world, and that we can start to create these containers for people to work how they want to work, and be a mom and work at home and go through periods where you're doing things in a more go 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 type of way, and then other times where you may be working 1 to 2 hours a day. That's kind of like, I feel like we poo-pooed a lot of that, but there are some people who do that and they're creating way bigger things than the person who's working 12 hours a day, because they're doing it, they're showing up in full spirit for that. And I hope that we can start to celebrate that and get away from a lot of the hustle culture. But hustle culture is good sometimes too, to throw in there to get that, light that fire under, but celebrate more of the sitting back and, receiving information and looking at the world and being present with yourself, that embodiment, that sitting with yourself and getting out of your own head and what, you know, everything that's kind of coming at you, and just feeling into what feels right for you personally.
Yes, 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 yes. And I think too, it's like I feel like as we get older, I mean, we know that this inner work never ends, right? It's like we're, like you said earlier, we're all going home with each other, right? We're all figuring out, oh, I really, peanut butter is my favorite, or I don't really like peanut butter, or you know what, I don't like showers. I like to take. You're getting to know yourself more and more each day, right? And there's not to say like you got to be more in your feminine and less in your masculine. You got to see what works for you. And yes, hustle culture. Know when to use that to your advantage. I can't say um, I can't mention the names, but because of like in the beginning of my business, I had some like big names like reach out to me to then start this community work. Several different business owners, and it was just it was amazing, so amazing, But it was because I was really putting myself out there. I was building connections, and I was doing what was best for me, and you don't have to do the same process as me because maybe your process is going to be completely different. And when you're creating your community, it's all about, it's just back to that party concept. You're inviting people to your party, like, oh, this is what we're about. This is what we're going to talk about, and this and that. And don't get hung up on like, oh, I lost some followers, or on Clubhouse, or on Instagram, or people left my Facebook group, blah, blah, blah. That is not like, there's always ebbs and flows in life, right? Like, it's just like a heartbeat. Like, if it's just steady, then you're dead, right? It's going up and down, up and down. That's just how things are. So you can't get tripped up when like there are going to be some hiccups, and there are going to be some tough days, and you have to really trust yourself, and just know that you are always taken care of, that you're doing amazing. And in this process, sometimes, I mentioned that, be consistent, but let's say that you can't be consistent because maybe you're having some health issues, or maybe you're feeling burnt out, or maybe whatever, maybe something happens with you and you have to take care of that, or maybe you're getting triggered, or maybe you're feeling like a fraud. Then that is when you have to really prioritize your healing, your self-love. You have to take care of like whatever it is that is preventing you from flowing to the next level, right? And it's not always about business strategy. It like most, and I hear this a lot in a lot of calls, like whenever I do a screening process, like people will say like, oh, I don't want to show myself, I just want to show my product, or I just want to present my coaching services. I don't want to talk about my life, I don't want to this, I don't want that. It's like, to me that's like, okay, I think there needs to be some, I think the best word to use is shadow work, because there's something in you that doesn't want you to be seen, right? So that means there's got to be some healing done, right? So as you're building your consistency and showing up, make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because it's not just all about like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start my business, start my community, and just like, yeah, here are my favorite quotes, here's my favorite podcast, this and that. These things, we're human, these things are gonna come up, and you just gotta be ready to like take care of them. So I always tell people like triggers are opportunities for growth. I'll see like, oh, well, now I'm at the point in my journey where if I get triggered and I get pissed off about something, I'm like, oh, well, is there something I need to heal myself in? Like, what is it? What is it? But it took a process to get there. I remember like before I'd get triggered and I'd be like, oh, well, this and that. And then I'd go down the rabbit hole rather than like, staying focused on the story rather than the energy that needs to get healed within myself.
Yeah, and I think just also to keep in mind too that a lot of the triggers that we have about other people are usually things that are being stirred up within us too. So a lot of times, if you're worried that people are going to judge you, right, for your stories, are you being judgmental? Are you being judging of yourself when you do that? Which I'm sure you are, but if that's what you're worried about. And what's so crazy about all of that is that when you work through that, you start to realize that people aren't necessarily out to get you. Most people who want to discover you want to see you in your fullest form. The people who don't are not really your people, or they're people who maybe aren't your people yet. Maybe you're going to show them, give them that permission to do that for themselves. You're by limiting yourself, you therefore are limiting, you're telling other people it's okay to limit themselves, and I think that's so important to remember, because I do think that, and this is again, men and women and non-binary, everything, but like I do think women have this social conditioning to feel judged, or that gonna that they're too much, right? They're too much. They're not. I don't know. That they're whatever it is. It's like when they were assertive, they were aggressive. If they were bossy when they were actually just being, they were the strategy person of their little friend group, whatever it was. It's always this, it's too much. I'm going to be judged. Someone's going to think, who does she think oh my gosh, that's the worst one. Who does she think she is? A lot of that is so internal, and so much of it shows what you're doing to yourself. And then the funny part about it, that is the people who start to heal that, they don't mind showing up on camera anymore, because they're like, most people, they're excited to see, for of the people who are excited to see me show up for my fullest and let and be there to receive anything I'm willing to give them, and vice versa, and what they're willing to give me. We're all just kind of growing together. The people who aren't interested or judgmental, they're not going to be here for very long, or they're just going to join the party. It's like, what are you going to do? Not throw the party because you're worried that someone might not stop at your door? Let all the other people come in, and then they're going to hear the music playing in there, and then they're probably going to want to come in too. It's like, they may not like the balloons you put outside, but then maybe they're like, you know what, those balloons are actually kind of cool, I'm going to go inside. You know what I mean? It's like, this is just everybody's perception of stuff. And like you said, the shadow work is so important. And do you have any advice? So let's say we already have a community and you want to cultivate that more, and not just the one-on-ones are amazing, but let's say like in a Facebook group, or you're putting stories up or something else, or another way to engage people. How would you do that in a way where how would you advise somebody to do something either creative or extend the experience in a way that feels authentic and like gets more, let's say, motion happening at the party?
Yes. Okay. So definitely always have a way to include their input. So whether that looks like, oh, like asking for advice, or asking for this, or asking for, what's your best mindset tip? Even if you think in your head, like, I have the best mindset tip, right? But you're inviting people to then share their thoughts, right? And when you do that, that is, you're prioritizing them, right? And then other people will see that, and then they're going to chime in, and then other people will chime in. And then also too, like getting creative. So maybe you can do like a challenge, or maybe you can just um I don't know, like have like a little contest going, stuff like that. Maybe you have something where, you say, "Oh, I'm looking for speakers for my Clubhouse room. Are you a coach, or are you this, or are you that?" You know, getting creative and making it more about them, because it should always be about them and not about you. And, sometimes I mean, I always think it's best to do what you want, but also too, ask them like, what is it that you would like to see more of? And more than likely, people will tell you, oh, I would like this, or I would like that. Or maybe creating like a free event for them. Like I have a free monthly networking session for my group. They love it. They Some of the girls there, they just like to show up to practice sharing their pitch, or practice, or get advice on their niche, or to look for more clients. So getting really creative with like, how can the people that are going to engage with you, or that are your audience, how are they going to benefit from whatever it is that you're going to share, and make it fun too. Because then it's just like, then that way you're not the person like just at the top, and then they're all just looking at you. That's just going to be boring, right? You got to put them on the pedestal too.
Yeah, it's like thinking about when you're hosting on Clubhouse or you're hosting a party, like you were saying, it is about the party. A good host is somebody who's a facilitator. It's somebody who is introducing people to one another. It's the person who kind of lights the fire under something fun and creative. And I think it is so important to look at those passions of yours and say, hey, you know what? I have a Spotify playlist. Let's make a collaborative one. Let me see what these people add, make it super, super fun. And, like you said, I think the Clubhouse piece is so important too, to just like start a room with somebody. And then, they're able to be like, wait, you want to start a Clubhouse room with me? I thought you're doing, this whole lineup. And you're like, no, I just want to pick somebody from my audience to just talk about XYZ. And it could be something totally not on your usual topic. That's so easy to do, but it makes such interesting. It's not even just for your audience, it's also for you too. You get to have some different conversations than maybe you're used to having with your audience, or with others, and you really kind of get such beautiful insight. And I think really that's one of the most underrated pieces of having a community, is not just like the feedback you're getting on your own content, but just you get this like really cool, they're already obviously a fan of what you're doing, or they are interested in your container and your growth. So getting these kind of new creative ideas from your audience too is really, really cool, that you can kind of riff on with them. It's this two-way street that is not really transactional. It's like you said, it's cultivating that relationship as if they're your friends, or if you're a teacher, they're your students. Most teachers will say, I learn more from my students, or if you're a coach, would learn more from my clients, then probably they learn from me a lot of the time, because you are staying open to that and then sharing that experience too. But I love everything that you've been sharing here. And I think it's so important to extend that experience creatively in what feels right for you. But I love that we got into a lot of the self work today, because I think that is so important. The energy you show up in your content with your community, it's the epic piece. And also just letting those ebbs and flows come as you're creating. That's really the human experience, is just showing what we're doing in any given moment, not forcing it, and allowing other people to create in the same way. And let your space be a creative container for others. That's always amazing too. Okay, so Fabiola, so if do you want to field this one first? So she's asking, kind of for the flow of the group, how do you feel that out? Do you have maybe other people who are in the group who are maybe facilitating? How do you kind of maybe find your role within your own group?
Yeah, so I think this goes back first to the concept of like making sure you're first taking care of yourself, and like having your cup full. And I feel like when we have our cup full, we're prioritizing rest and play, love, fun, then you're going to be tapped into your inner genius, right? And I always tell people to like follow their intuition, and I because like everybody's process is going to be different for their community, right? So like maybe the way I engage with my community will be different for you. Like let's say I have like 3 kids and you don't have kids, so you got to really get to know yourself and see what life shows you, right? And then just kind of take it from there and keep it simple, and just let's say that you figure out a process that works really well for you. It's okay if it changes a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later. You don't have to like force things to be the same type of routine or the same type of way. Maybe sometimes you're showing up privately somewhere online more than usual, or maybe it's opposite. So it's really just really getting to know like what would naturally come up for you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think you just have to see who comes to your group, right? Like we were talking about, maybe um, at different points in your life, there may be a time where you do have kids, or you're pregnant, whatever, and you attract a different group of people, of like working moms, or there's something that's happening in the world, or maybe something that's happening more locally for you. And you have people in your group that are experiencing that, and it's something that you want to lean into at that point. I think it's just being open to listening to what people are saying. And then, when you're prompting them, if that's what you're asking too, like how to know when you're going to add more information or sit back a little bit. Um, I think that you just got to start to feel in yourself what you feel is right. If you feel so excited and compelled to share some information, like, oh my gosh, look what I found, or you created a graphic that you that you really want to share with your group that you think is so helpful. If you feel that gut instinct of that, you're so excited about it, share it. Absolutely share it. If you feel that it's a chore to put something together, don't even worry about it, because truthfully, people will know when you're really excited and you're sharing something that is meaningful to you. And then sometimes there's going to be little quieter periods and other people will step up. And I encourage anybody who has a larger following or a group or something that's very active, to try to find little ambassadors, because they're going to be the ones that understand your message. Maybe people who are OG from day one, who've been with you for a long time, who know you. If they can help you with your community too, that's amazing, because they can be that kind of second set of ears or eyes, or somebody who can creatively inspire the group for you, in times where you do need to take a rest, right? They can play with that energy too, where maybe you need to take a step back and listen, and that person can step up in that moment and, creatively inspire the group. And you're empowering them too, with your message, and you're allowing them to express a lot of what your values are, but through a different lens.
Yes, I love that. And having like affiliate marketing, affiliate offers, you already have people that really love a product or a service that you have. That's definitely an amazing way to have like basically, paid referrals. It just like Jordan said, if you have people that have been following you since day one, or they did a group program that they really loved, you can then offer them that, and that's just you expanding more and more of your community.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything, even like, let's say this is something new for you and you have some loyal people, but you want to spread the love a little further, and maybe you don't have a lot to spend, or you don't necessarily have a paid product yet. Even if it's referring people to follow you or to sign up for your email list or something, you can even just offer a little freebie for people who are sharing, or get creative. And like for all the people who are sharing, you'll send them a little something fun in the mail, like even just like a handwritten card, anything like that. People really do appreciate that. And I think the more you're able to empower others to get excited and share a message and be on your journey, the more creative you're going to feel, the less burnt out you're going to feel too.
Yes, you really just have to. I mean, I feel like what we've been basically talking about is like it has to just you just have to trust yourself. And if art is something that really, lights your spirit and your heart up, then don't be afraid to share that. Um, and if it's something else, then do that. Don't if you ever get to a moment where you're just asking yourself, what would this person think, or how should I do this? Shoulding, I think, this person, that's all like you prioritizing opinions outside of yourself rather than from you and your heart.
Yeah, and you can even just get super creative even with the artistic side, and you could even share mood boards. Like I know you can look on Canva for some of those and pull together imagery and colors and things that you love, or you can share maybe some of your favorite art that you're like some of the things that you've come across on Pinterest or something, right? This week of new artists that you love, and sharing that in the group is really cool too, because even if it has nothing to do with what um, what your business is, or if you're just kind of creating it around your own content, it's always going to fit because it's you. And people will appreciate that, whether they're an art lover or they're not necessarily an art lover, they're going to appreciate your passion. And that's what's really important. That is a huge piece. I was working in sustainability for a while on a project for the last year or so, and sustainability is a global interest and a global issue. And I think that you can bring that into any space. I mean, look at how it's infiltrated with fashion. Art can absolutely be part of it. The materials that you use, the type of art that can be created to educate people, there's so many interesting things you can do. Or if you, like you said, if you create your own group and they're interested in, there's going to be lots of people who are interested in sustainability and art. If that was the two things that you wanted to talk about, yeah, totally. You're going to find a lot of people that are interested in those two things, because we're not limited to just joining one group in our life. We're going to be participants in communities, and we're also going to be leaders of communities. And it's good to be a little bit of both. Like share your value, like you said, when you show up in a group and say, hey, here's where I can add value. And then you may want to lead a group that is focused on sustainability and art. And that may be separate from your work. This could just be a separate area and container where you can connect with people. And that is totally amazing and great, and can commingle with your other pieces of your life where they don't have to. That's the beauty of community, is you really can marry all these pieces, or you can make it very niche. Just like on Clubhouse, you can find talks in a lot of different areas, and kind of choose um, where you want to live in any given moment, which is really awesome. And I'm so glad that you asked this question, because I think it's so important that we talk about these kind of spaces where you can mix these things that may feel like they don't go together at any point. Those are the best things, I think. Sometimes, putting together things that you wouldn't necessarily expect, that's where real innovation comes, and you could be a leader in talking about that, right? So always feel inspired by the things that you're passionate about. And if you can put them together, then that's even more fun.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also too, at the end of the day, just making sure that you're deciding to commit to your passions, to the excitement about your passions, your gratefulness for your passions, because this is where people fall off entrepreneurship, right? Creating is only a small portion of it, right? You have to put in the work to make it thrive, and this is where a lot of people will quit, right? And it's not because that they sucked, or their product sucked, or their service wasn't good. There are so many horrible like courses out there that are like making so much money. It's all about how far are you willing to take it, and you have to really stay committed and go through the ebbs and flows, so that you make it out. It's I don't know. It's just it's crazy, because even for me, I'll use me as an example. I did my coaching training with a large number of people. I think it was like a group of 50 people. And I think like half of them, they like stopped doing their coaching business, and they're just like not, they just like gave up. you know? But it's not because that they sucked. It's just that they started listening to those thoughts of like, oh well, I'm not getting a lot of people joining my community, or I'm not getting people a lot of this, or I'm not getting a lot of that, da, 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 da. And then if you just stop, then the business just stops. So you have to decide to commit, and you have to go 1000% in. Okay, maybe 100%, but you got to go in, and you got to just trust, and yeah, trust yourself.
Yeah, and it's a way of accountability too, to be honest, for a lot of people maybe who um i- that's something they're working on. Like, so maybe the little bit of the shadow work is your accountability in some of your projects or some of your passions. Like, maybe sometimes you get easily spooked when things aren't necessarily going your way. Having a community helps you to show up too, makes you a better leader and entrepreneur. And, when you have that accountability of other people, sometimes if you just put something out on the internet to sell, right? Maybe you don't feel that pull of community that people are counting on you. They're like, well, no one cares. I'll just take it down. But if you have people who are joining your group, even if it's two people, if there's those two people are showing up and you have to show up for them too, it really makes you a better entrepreneur and you can multiply that greatly. But I think just as much as you show up for your community and you help them, they help you too. They're there to basically get those, it's like any relationship. If you think about like the partnerships you have with a partner, a friend, somebody you're working with, anybody who is a relationship with you, they're always going to help you grow because they're going to give you new perspectives. They're going to challenge you. They're going to give you they're going to give you a lot of gifts that you wouldn't necessarily get working alone. And for a lot of us, we're not necessarily working with other people or in the same space. So it is a gift to have, these other people there who are here for you and that you could show up for them too. That's really awesome. So I'm so excited for you. I hope that you are able to build that community for yourself, and whether you're a coach or you just want to inspire a group of people with your passions, showing up for them regularly is such a beautiful thing that you can do for yourself and for others.
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that. And I do think it's so important to, share your journey, share, the road you've been on, because like I said earlier, people people they're gonna follow you, or build that relationship with you because either they relate to you because you went through something similar, or because they see that you are being consistent and you're not afraid to show yourself, or you're showing things that are maybe frowned upon. Maybe you're showing things that are not accepted according to like society. They're going to follow you because you're different, so it's so so important to really show that. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I mean, this was fantastic. I couldn't have asked for any more. I actually had my fiance came up and he's like, "Are you still on Clubhouse?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." It was so what a great conversation and so valuable and always such a joy to have you on. Do you want to share with everyone where they can find you or some next steps you have? I know you have a million tools and great things that you can share, but I want to give you the platform to do that.
Yeah, so I do have a Notion mobile template that I've created. If this is something that you'd like to download, feel free to, you can DM me on Instagram at Thrive and Align. It's an amazing little template that I've created for people who are using Clubhouse and maybe their iPhone notes looks like a nightmare. So it's just something to keep your stuff organized. Um, and you can get the link from my bio on Instagram. And yeah, I'm pretty active on there. I have a Facebook group as well. And yeah, thank you so much for being in this room and listening. And thank you so much for hosting this room, Jordan. I really, really love this conversation. And I can't wait to hear our recording.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we didn't record the room. We just recorded our outside voices. So just to let you guys know, so we didn't take some of that, but we did restate some things, and we love getting your feedback on there. So it's mainly the earlier pieces. You'll get to hear more of Fabiola's story if you follow us. But yes, I'm also on Instagram. I'm just at jordan.chadsey. I have a link in my Clubhouse bio. I'm actually in a very big experimentation phase right now, doing a lot relating, on the study of innovation. I am a software developer and tech founder, so I work on applications, but I've gone more independent recently. So I'm starting to create more on my own as opposed to making startups. I'm doing more product based things. So it's kind of going against the grain of raising money from a VC. It's kind of bootstrapping and getting your customers to pay. So I'm on that journey right now. So if you want to follow me, the best place is probably Instagram, or you can go on my website. But yeah, right now you're going to see me in a highly experimental phase. So a lot of content creation, a lot of probably software development, design, and sharing that process with everyone else who may be interested in doing the same.
Awesome. Oh my God. I can't wait to see everything. Yeah. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Friday and wonderful weekend. And I hope that you create beautiful things because you are worth it and you are awesome.